Thanks, everyone, and welcome to hearing about Prescient, and thanks for your time today. An incredibly exciting time to be talking about cancer. I mean, I have to pinch myself. Who would have thought that in 2022 we'd be talking about the beginning of the end of cancer? Like 5 short years ago, that wasn't possible, but it's happening right before our eyes. It's real world data. And Prescient, yes, we're an Australian US company, but we find ourselves actually at the front of this incredible wave. We're not scrambling out the back of it. We're positioned right in front. You're going to see why and what that means for patients and for shareholders. Next slide. Thank you. Skipping ahead. So we're capped at about $100 million, between 100 and 120, depending on the day, with growing liquidity. And as awareness is being built around exactly what we have, especially with respect to our cell therapies, we're attracting a larger and larger audience, which is wonderful, both investor and corporate. Next slide, thanks. To introduce the company by way of investment highlights. Basically, we take the sleep at night factor with respect to science. We work with the best and we license from the best. You'll see some household names there where we've piggybacked all of the expertise of Yale, Penn, Oxford, Moffat, and so on, and there's more than that as well. Taking basically all of their infrastructure, all of their expertise, and piggybacking that and building on it and commercializing that. So we've got lots of shots on goal. We've got 2 targeted therapies in the clinic now. We've got 2 cell therapy platforms. Basically, we're not a science project, we're building a real company there with real world medicines and lots of upcoming news flow as a result of a very rich pipeline. So next slide, thanks. So I'll only have time to skip across the tops of the waves, but today I think you'll get a sense of the quality and the depth of our portfolio. If I leave you with nothing else today, please be aware of the depth of the portfolio. I'm happy to take questions on any aspect of it. I'll start with PTX 100. This is a first-in-class inhibitor of a certain pathway inside cancer cells. It's licensed from Yale. The area that we're in here is basically the benchmark is so low. That's the red line there. That's what our competition does. All the drugs in the market, only 25% of the time work for 3 months, maybe 4. And a couple of our patients, especially with those diseases, ignore most of those there in solid tumors. That was for safety, but we're shooting the lights out with this, and we think this has the potential to be a real medicine. And the competition, once again, has a very bad safety profile, not a single adverse event, not a single toxicity event that is reportable to our drug. So it plays very nicely with others, it works better, and we've just been given orphan drug designation by the US FDA, which guarantees us 7 years of market exclusivity. This is producing real data this year, and so it's going to be a really good next few months for us. Next slide, thanks. Just touching on our next drug, PTX 200. This is in a different type of disease. It's a disease where people are dead within 4 to 6 months, AML. And despite this bad prognosis, we've had 4 people with complete remissions and another one with a partial remission. People who otherwise wouldn't be alive today walking around as a result of this trial. And this also has orphan drug designation, that 7-year exclusivity as well. And this is reporting out this year as well. So I've just touched on two drugs there that are potential company makers in their own right. I'm now switching gears, talking about cell therapy, and this is what's really turning heads in the industry. So next slide, thank you. So what is cell therapy? As the name suggests, using living cells as a medicine. This sounds science fiction-y, but there's nothing fights infection in the body. It gets rid of a foreign invader like your own immune system. We need to just harness that. So we take blood from the patient, isolate the immune cells outside of the body, reprogram it, put a new receptor on it that can latch onto the cancer, these are called CAR T cells, make millions of these and give it back to the patient. The result is on the next slide, is that for the very first time in the history of medicine, people are talking about functional cures. This is a poster child for this was Emily Whitehead on her 24 hours from her organs shutting down, having failed everything. And there's now 10 years cancer-free. And Emily's just one dot point. There are many, there's thousands of patients now like Emily who have been effectively cured as a result of this transformational medicine. Next slide. This was invented by the University of Pennsylvania. It's not science fiction, it's a real world product. Novartis was the first to license this. It's given way to $1 billion industry in a very short space of time. And there's now six drugs approved in similar indications, all crowding around the same type of disease. But it has given rise very quickly to an exploding industry. Why? Because of real world data. Next slide, thank you. But like any brand new technology modality, the first iteration is always the clunkiest. Now, think of the very first VHS tapes that came out that transformed how we watch movies, but no one has VHS today. And that is exactly where CAR-T is, as wonderful as it is. I've listed here some of the problems with CAR-T. They're not controllable. The cells do what they do and grow and divide without any ability to control them. You can't redirect them. There is many things there. Again, the take-home message from this slide, our two assets, Omni-CAR and Cell Prime, address all of these. That is good for Prescient and our shareholders and our patients, because we can create therapies that are actually going to overcome these hurdles and reach many more types of patients with many different cancers, but also externally, where anyone else working in the field that are encountering these problems, I promise you, can use our solutions to create theirs as well, and we can reap the benefits of that. So I'll start talking about Omni-CAR just briefly. On the next slide, if you can skip over to 16, thank you. If you remember nothing else, just remember this slide. As transformational as CAR-T is, that's the soldier on the left. It's a soldier that, it is there in the immune system, killing the cancer, but it only has one weapon, one map. You can't communicate with it, and you can't control it mid-mission. Only you can't redirect it. Whereas we're really taking this to the next level. It's the same soldier, but you can arm it with any weapon, including several at once. Multiple maps against multiple targets, including several at once, and a full communication and control, can even send images back. So as wonderful as CAR-T is, you can see that we are changing the game. This technology is from the very same people who invented CAR-T, the University of Pennsylvania. So the pedigree literally could not be better. Next slide, thank you. This is just a depiction on some of, there's real data behind these, but basically, unlike anyone else, we can actually titrate up. We can ramp up activity of the cell like a remote control. We can also switch it on and switch it off, and switch it back on again, which is good for safety, but also to make these more durable. We can actually redirect the cell like a remote control by simply switching out, the part that binds to the cancer without a new cell product. And most importantly, we can arm these cells, which are like a modular, like a Lego set. We can attach many different binders to these. There's nowhere for the tumor to hide. So to have real curative intent where, the tumor can't evade and grow back, you can really hit it hard, so there's nowhere to hide. So no one else can do what we're doing, and we're very, very pleased with where we're at. I'll now talk about Cell Prime on the next slide. This is our third pillar of the business, which basically produces a better type of cell. Basically, these are a more youthful cell type that lasts longer and kill the tumor better. They find the tumor, and once it's at the tumor, they chew through it a lot better. So next slide, thank you. Just demonstrates how this fits with Omni-CAR. So Omni-CAR is the modular part, which gives you all that functional control. Cell Prime makes the better cell product. So you can see how they're very complementary, a more youthful, longer lasting, more effective cell. But we can also enhance other people's cells as well. So on the next slide is just illustrating just some of the data, how we can, by just dropping this into anyone else's manufacturing process, we can double the performance of their cells. So we can double the performance of our cells just by making it differently, and also anyone else's. So the business models on the next couple of slides, you can see here that it's a huge market where we can make good products for ourselves and genuinely differentiated products, but also for anyone else. And this gives us like a shovels to the gold rush type of positioning, which is a great spot to be in, which gives us the opportunity to monetize this a lot sooner than would otherwise be possible. And the next slide describes this, where the end game is. We're basically going to do for cancer therapies what Apple has done for consumer electronics by making this ecosystem that matches the patient needs, where other people can make their binders and put it into the app store. That's what we're about. And no one's been able to do this. So just in summary, where we are, we've got a nice defensible position, especially in with macro uncertainty. We're in the biggest market. We're in healthcare. The biggest area of healthcare is in oncology. The fastest growing area is in cell therapy, and we are right at the forefront of the fastest growing area. So from a top-down approach, it's a really nice spot to be in. And lastly, its last slide is a good summary of what we've discussed today, which is basically we've got 4 world-class assets. There's no doubt about that, top pedigree, and we've got superior positioning, internal programs, and a shovels to the gold rush positioning for everyone else. And we've got this incredible tailwind at the forefront of the fastest growing area in oncology. And that is Prescient, and I look forward to your questions. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Stephen. A couple of questions coming through here, or several questions. So with the CAR-T therapies, are there any kind of currently approved by the FDA, and do they target anything in particular?
Absolutely, there are 6. There are 6 in a short space of time. Yes, there are for a certain type of blood cancer. There's only, and they are approved. They're approved in Australia as well. I think there's 3 or 4 approved here, and they're subsidised by the cell therapy equivalent of the PBS. I think there's been about 1,500 patients successfully treated in Australia, so it's real. The Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre is licensed to administer these in Australia, and we've aligned ourselves with them. We're effectively got our labs in their labs.
And another question here, how many licensees of your CAR-T technology do you presently have, and how many do you expect to have in a year's time, for example?
Yeah, I think what we've been doing over the last 12 months is really preparing the soil and building an awareness of this. It's turning a lot of heads. You've got to play the long game with respect to this, but I would stay tuned, is all I can say. And the other thing I would say is once the first domino falls, it probably won't be the last domino to fall. So all I can say is we're in the right place at the right time, and it's turning a lot of heads.
And playing the long game in this space is expensive. We see that with all biotechs. What's the pathway moving forward to commercialising your portfolio, and does that mean working with big pharma?
I think it does involve that. We've got control of our own destiny, which is great. Yes, you've got to play the long game to get your own products all the way to the finish line. If we can do what we say on the label, I'd be amazed if we'd have trouble doing that. But also the platform nature of what we've got enables us to monetize these platforms a lot sooner than would otherwise be possible. For example, there'd be a big pharma that said, wow, we've got a colorectal cancer program. We would love to use your recipe book, your technology, and we would enable them to do that. And in return, we'd be getting milestone fees and royalties. So, and you do lots of those. It's a nice cumulative, scalable business model. So in addition to our internal programs, we have those available to us as well, which we would be hoping to have.
And prior to that, is there a stepping stone of FDA approval along the way?
That would be towards the end. Yeah, gotcha. for sure. And we're in touch with the regulators, and we're beginning with the end in mind. So we engaged with them early on as to what our technology can do, and again, stay tuned on some clarity on that. But we're very pleased with how they see it. They see this as a way of targeting many different tumours in an efficient way.
Great, Stephen. That's all we have time for. Nice to see you again. Important work you're doing. Congratulations. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, everyone.